No, actually, I wrote it I think I wrote it probably 2002 or something like that. So probably around the time I was still in ICOM.
You're still in
I
ICOM?
was
Oh,
still
you
in
were
ICOM.
in ICOM and
I was
then Berkeley?
Yeah, I was in ICOM. I was in ICOM 1998 till 2003 or so. So I think I wrote that probably 2002 or 2003 around that time.
Oh, so you have the experience of studying locally and
Yes.
okay, and in US. So how about sharing with me, as a ex-student of Berkeley, right? What's the difference, local university versus what you've experienced in Berkeley?
So I think my experience in Berkeley is in Berkeley you can study very specific things. You can take a class like Bob Marley ensemble, or you can take a bossa nova, Brazilian guitar lab, or you can study blues guitar, or you can study shred guitar, like Mom's Team can be a class, or like Jeff Beck guitar lab, or Jimi Hendrix lab. And also when I was a student at Berkeley, I think there were like 5,000 students. This is back then. Now I think it's like something like, I checked yesterday, I think it's like 4,800 or something, still around the same. But out of the 5,000 students, it's like 1,000 are guitar players. So it's 1,000 guitar students. I checked now, if you go to Berkeley, there's, I think, let me check, 52 guitar teachers. So if you want to study classical guitar, they have Kim Perlak, they have Berta Rojas. If you want to study like a blues, you can study with Tomo Fujita. You want to study a rock, you can study with John Finn. Shred, you want to study shred, specifically there's like, who's the guy's name? Joe Stump, Mike Williams for blues and stuff like that. So I think at Berkeley, right, you can study very, very specific things with specific teachers that specialize in those things. It's very hard to do that here, to have 52 guitar teachers at one place, because we simply don't have the numbers to maintain that kind of faculty. So I think in terms of if you want to study things in a very detailed, in-depth way, that was a very good experience for me. So I studied here in Malaysia first, and I got like kind of my foundation in understanding, understanding harmony, arranging, writing, performing. And then when I went there, I had the chance to go deeper into specific topics. So for example, there was one semester I just studied with this guy named Ben Shear, and he had a class called Brazilian Guitar Lab. So we learned how to play bossa nova, learned how to play samba, partito alto, and then I took an ensemble that was Brazilian ensemble, and then I took private lessons with him. So imagine one semester it's just like 3 different classes, all Brazilian style music, jazz and bossa nova and samba and stuff. And I think that kind of experience really helps you kind of refine what you want to learn, especially if you know what you want to learn. Now, if you go there and you don't have a focus, you can get overwhelmed. It's like going to a buffet and suddenly there's so much food, right? You don't know where to start. But if you know you like Japanese food and you don't like this one and you know which food is cheap, you don't want to eat, then you're gonna get better. It's like going to a buffet, if you know what you want, you're gonna get more out of it. Also, when I was in Berkeley, I did a dual major. I did a dual major degree in jazz composition and performance guitar, and that was a popular major around that time in Berkeley. That combination, taking 2 degrees at the same time. But over here you can study what? Usually you have performance major, music engineering or production, and you can have composition, maybe music education if you go to OPSI. But over there they have like music synthesis. Now they call it electronic music production. You can study film scoring, you can study classical composition, jazz composition, contemporary writing and production, music therapy, performance. And now there's another major, besides recording, they have one new major now I checked, it's called independent recording and production. It means that if you just want to run your own recording setup, not in a studio with other people, but you just want to do your own production, there's a major for that as well. So it's so specialized. I think they have like 12 or 13 majors, something like that. And then they have minors as well. So specifically comparing Berkeley and like the institutions here, because the institution is so big and established, they can afford to have all these separate different departments and faculty. So that's a big difference.
So there's always chance to grow, right? I mean,
yes.
From my understanding, if I'm not wrong, our colleges that offers music courses also is just starting out, right? Consider?
What here, is it?
Yeah.
I think here there's a lot. I actually did some research a few years ago, just checking the programs. I mean, you have Yamaha, you have you have OPSI,
But that offers the higher level of
There are programs up to like PhD level or research level majors, but like like depending what you want to study lah. I mean, like
we don't have the variety, right?
we can't afford to have the variety because we don't have the numbers. I think like probably one of the biggest enrollment is probably at UITM. UITM's what, 500 students now or something? About 500, right?
Okay, how about Sunway University over there? May I know, like one batch, right? How many students?
Do you guys know? 30.
30.
But the total enrollment for the music program is about, do you know how much? How many?
Every one of us?
Yeah.
I think it will be close to 200-300 around there.
200-300. So this is like the comparison is 200-300 or 500.
And then we're much more competitive nowadays, right? In terms of the colleges offering music education. I mean, that's SAGI,
yeah,
UCSI,
MIA, and
Aswara.
yeah. So I think depend here. If you're studying here, I think it really depends what you want to do. So if you are into kind of, I guess, interdisciplinary stuff, Aswara might be a good choice because they also have theater, they have dance, they have music, they have traditional music.
Yeah.
If you want to study more contemporary stuff, maybe at ICOM or UCSI. If you want to study classical, maybe at MIA. So I think it really depends on where you kind of look at your career direction or what kind of focus you want to do in. Because I've had students from all these different universities, like private students or like people coming to my clinics, and it really depends on where you want to go. There's a lot of choices to be made.
Great.
We'll talk about that as well.
Yeah. Thank you. So next thing. All right. So when we go out, right? Of course, there's several key skills and techniques that we have to have as a musician or a guitarist. So what do you think, from a Malaysian from a local standpoint, right? What sort of things that we must carry as a musician to succeed?
I think first is, this is not very common but people should be on time It's I mean, it sounds very basic, but there's so many. I think so many musicians. This is just my personal rant I feel that musicians tend to be a lot of people tend to be late, and the thing is, the danger of getting used to that is you can lose gigs and you won't know that you lost the gig. It's just that if the gig is like a very high profile gig and they require you to be time sensitive, if they know that you're going to be late, right, and you're not that good, they probably won't call you because they're afraid might not be there. And you won't even know you lose the gig. But talking about very specific things for the Malaysian market, I think it depends on what you want to do. So if you want to be in education, then also depends on the age group that you want to teach. Because if you want to teach kids, the requirement will be different because you need to know what the parents' expectations are and how kids learn is different depending whether you have a syllabus that you're following that is established. Yamaha is an established syllabus. So if you have a program that you can follow, that's very good. But if you're developing your own program, then it really depends on which kind of students, age groups that you're working with. If you're teaching at college, obviously nowadays they want at least a master's, preferably, even a PhD is getting more and more common. But if you're teaching at a smaller school somewhere, then usually a diploma or a degree is okay, with experience, or if you take Yamaha or rock school, depending what syllabus you teach. As a performer, it really depends on whether you want to be a session musician, or you want to be a musician in a band, or you want to be an artist or a band leader. Basically, every single decision that you make will determine how much work and responsibilities and decision making you have to do. Because if you're playing, for example, if you're a session musician, preferably you should be able to read, preferably really good ears. You should know different styles of music that is required. You should know your instrument pretty well. You should know how to play in different keys, read in different keys, transpose on site. When the singer plays in a different surprise key, you can follow still. And if the band changes the arrangement, you can follow what's happening with the band. Or in a situation where there's no score or no part, you can actually play the song on the spot or as best, so that people know that, they wouldn't know that you didn't practice it. This happens all the time. And then if you're in a band, the question is, do you need to be that versatile? Not necessarily. If you play primarily in pop or rock or metal bands, maybe you just need to know rock and metal and some pop stuff. But for me, like a lot of my work here in Malaysia, people call me when they need acoustic guitar recordings. But when I was in US, I got called for electric and acoustic recordings because people know me for doing both over there, here, more on the acoustic side. And then if you want to be a band leader, it's a lot of responsibility because you have to make the decisions. Do you want to be a band that plays for functions? Do you want to play at Backyard Park or Rockefellers, or you want to play at a jazz bar or jazz cafe or a small Chinese restaurant somewhere in Puchong or something? Depends where you want to play and what kind of music you want to play and what you want to be known for and how much money you want to make, and also how much you want to grow the project. If anyone's here from a classical background, do you want to be a soloist? Do you want to have a classical ensemble? Do you want to have your own chamber group? Or do you want to write your own original? That's the other question. Original music or covers? Because if you want to do original music, then who's going to write it? Do you have the patience and stamina to promote original music? Because it takes time to develop a following doing original music. This is coming from my experience of doing original music for many, many years. So there's a lot of questions that need to be asked. I was preparing for this session, all the questions. He has very good questions. I was thinking a lot of things to think about because there's a lot of moving parts. And of course, in terms of in Malaysia, typically what are the options that you have? People think, oh, musician, jadi performer. So you think a performer, kau jadi artist lah. You become Siti Nurhaliza or Aina Abdul. You get a record deal. That's one kind of artist. Then or like, we start a rock band. Then you become Hujan or Kyoto Protocol or Bangface, and then you don't play for Green Day. And then, so you can do, and also it's different scenes. Because if you're doing this Malay pop scene, there's English pop scene.
It's very versatile, right?
Yeah, there's also like the mainstream and the underground. And then classical, you have, people who are actually performers and people who tour, people who do clinics, and people who play in large ensembles or orchestras. So there's a lot of different kinds of work available. But the typical makcik or pakcik or my uncle, right? My uncle be like, tak main kat TV ke? Tak tengok kat RTM siapa tu? You're either a session guitarist playing for RTM or juara lagu or something, or you are a rock band, an artist or something. Kau macam jadi koko. Or you can, or you are the artist, you're in a band, or you're performing like as a session musician, or you can become a composer. Jadi Encik Nasi lah, banyak duit tu.
It's writing jingles.
Yeah, writing jingles.
Option, right?
Yeah,
right. Beginning option.
For sure, there's all and writing also is commercial writing and like more art music writing or more creative writing. So there's more money here. There's money here. You can get money here, but you need to understand how to apply for grants from institutions. So the way the money flows also, it depends on the skills that you want to develop. If you're writing for very commercial music, you need to write music that people want to listen to. And then art music, you want to be able to write good proposal papers so that institutions want to give you money because your thing makes sense artistically for whatever deep reason that you have. So there's a lot of ways to make a living as a musician, but you have to kind of know your direction because there's a lot of skills that you might not learn when you're in a university program or music program. Because in university, usually you learn how to play or how to do counterpoint or how to do SATB or the history of music, but not necessarily how to make a living out of music.
How to engage the market, am I right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when we're talking about engaging the market, right? But we have to talk about individually as well. So on your side, so could you tell me what's your process to continually improving your craft and then stay inspired? And what's the best duration, right, for practicing per day? Okay, this is like a very general question. Practicing per day before reaching the point of diminishing return.
So there's a few questions.
Oh yeah, sorry, I jumbled up.
Sure, let me answer the last part because I remember the last part.
Okay,
first.
alright.
A lot of people ask me how many hours to practice. If I tell you 7 hours and 57 minutes, will you do it? It's a joke, but it's serious. The thing about practice is that I find that I've practiced different amounts of hours in a day. You know, like when I was starting out, maybe I would practice maybe 8 to 10 hours a day. But when you're younger, you don't know how to practice. You just have a lot of time because you gave up video games or guitar, right? So obviously you have more time because you don't play video games and you don't have a life. You don't have many friends. But later on, when you're older, you hopefully are smarter slightly. And then even if you have 1 hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, you probably can maximize the time better. So in terms of practice, what I used to do is I just enjoy playing guitar so much. You know, when I wanted to start being a musician, I just wanted to play music. I was just like play guitar all the time, you know. But you know, if you are thinking of doing music as a career, then I think it's good to figure out what you want to get good at. Because if you want to be a concert classical guitarist, there are certain things that you need to practice. You know, for example, you need to have good technique, you have to have the good tone, you have to have repertoire, you have to build your set every year, develop another 45 to 1 hour set every single year. If you want to be a session musician, then you should be able to play in every single key, everywhere on the guitar. You should know your triads, your 7 chords, all 15 types of 4-part chords. You should be able to memorize songs and understand how chord progressions flow. You should be able to improvise. And when you practice, I think the most important thing about the practice part is that you want to practice one thing at a time. My teacher, this famous Berkeley professor, is retired now, Hal Crook. He's not Crook, he's a really nice guy. But Hal Crook is his name. And he used to say that, you know, when you practice, you would practice one topic and abandon everything else when you're practicing that one topic. Meaning if I'm just practicing triads, right, I'll be practicing triads for half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. So I'm not going to get better at everything else, but at that one point in time, for that 1 to 3 hours, I'm going to get better at this one thing. And this is very important. If you want to practice tremolo or you want to practice alternate picking or sweep picking, then you just practice that for half an hour or 1 hour. And the point of diminishing returns is when you start daydreaming and thinking about the next episode of Star Trek or something. Then you know that you probably should stop practicing, you know, and you should just watch another episode of Arcane instead of actually working on like Dorian or something. So it's so specific, right? Then what's this question before that?
Okay. Now, currently, what do you do to continually improve your craft?
You should come for things like this, especially things like this. Please give a round of applause for Yamaha. I personally, if you check out my Instagram, you can see where I go. You know, I'm even if I'm not involved in the event, I'll go for guitar clinics, I'll go for talks, I'll go for master classes, and I go for things that are not just jazz or fingerstyle guitar. I'll go to classical guitar recitals. I'll go for like orchestra concerts. I'll go for like rock bands or indie gigs and stuff like that. I'll go for talks by rock guitarists, metal guitarists, talks by different people in different business talks, music business talks. The reason I go for these things is because I need to get out from whatever I'm used to thinking. And the easiest way to get a new idea is to be surrounded by people smarter than you. You don't want to be around people that know less than you. It's okay to be friends, but if you want to grow, you want to find people that know more, that have experienced more things. Sometimes they're older than you, sometimes they're younger than you. It's not about an age thing, it's just an experience thing. So you're looking for those opportunities, and if you cannot leave the house, you have to take care of your 5 cats. You can go on YouTube, you can get courses, you can buy books, you know. There's always a way to just, for me, I'm just listening to new music all the time. I've been listening to Heidi Moru. I love her new acoustic album, demo album. And I listen to new bands, new acts, local acts and international acts. And I'm just trying to, I don't want to be left behind. I want to know what's new. Even if I like it or I don't, it doesn't matter. I just want to know. So that maybe you know, I've been watching the whole Kendrick Lamar Super Bowl thing. Anyone been binge watching that? No? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, Kendrick!
Yeah. Not like us. Not like us. I think the Kendrick Lamar thing again and again, watching reaction. I just saw the reaction video from Snoop Dogg watching it. It's like he's trying his best not to say A minor because there's other chords that are worth playing. So yeah, I just keep in touch with what's new and just keep trying to expand. Yeah, just to be open to it and find new ideas and you know, meet new people, you know, and hang out with interesting people so you get new ideas. It's important.
Okay, thanks us. So, alright, so now we're going to take a quick break. You know, a big round of applause for us. No problem, providing us with that experience. So now, let's get into music. I'd like to invite the Sunway UC Constituent. Yeah. Boleh dah. Yeah, welcome back. Assalamualaikum. Now, we just got done with a very, very awesome performance by Sunway UC students. So, and that is actually one part of the music scene in Malaysia, right? It's the students performing, and then, you know, I'd like to pick your brain a little bit and on what you think on the current state of the music scene in Malaysia in comparison against global trends, international trends.
Talking about trends, it's just natural that Malaysia is usually behind by I think Zamuma would say something like 6 months or something, 6 months behind usually. What happens is though, you kind of look at what's happening overseas in terms of what's happening, what's popping in terms of the jazz thing or the pop thing or the hip hop thing, and then similar sounds or sounds influenced by that will happen here. So I think it's important to just pay attention to what's trending overseas. And I think that's getting faster now because sometimes US TikTok trends trend here quite fast as well because we have quite a large number of people on TikTok. So depending on the style of music, you know, it's behind, but it's getting faster and faster where people are doing similar
information
things.
is going a bit much more faster than previous, right?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, because of all the media platforms that we have.
Yeah, it's just accessible now. You can find out what's up. Yeah, very accessible, and I think sometimes it can be very distracting that you have so much input all the time.
Yep.
But it's all depending on the context, really, depending on what situation you're in.
Okay, you know, through that context, right, with accessibility, and then what do you think is the biggest challenge faced by independent musicians in Malaysia today? What do you think?
Making money.
Yeah.
It's always been a challenge. It's not just Malaysia. It's just like globally, right? You know, how do you make a living as a musician? And how do you, in relation to that, how do you build a personal brand? Like, why would someone get you as the guitar teacher, or why would someone hire you as a band to perform for someone's wedding or another function? So I think it's getting better now. I think in terms of like if we talk about personal brand, the pop artists in Malaysia know what they're doing. So you know the bigger acts, they know what they're doing on social media. They're already super famous, right? They got 1 million followers, but they're posting every single day. You know, and the people that need the work usually don't post as much because we're too busy practicing, trying to make the show very good. But you don't tell enough people about the show. So you have a fantastic show, but then 10 people show up. You know, and 5 of them are your family members, and 1 is your guitar tech that wanted to come in for free. So.
Too relatable, man.
Too relatable. 7 cats, huh? 7 cats. I think, it's basically that. Like, how do you make a living as a musician? How do you make a sustainable living? I think a lot of performers, when you're younger, you can play, 5 nights at a club, and then play another 2 nights, at a smaller cafe somewhere, and then you can go on tour and go to Penang and Langkawi, and then come back, and you play on the train, and then you come back, and then you teach 7 students on the weekend. But how long can you do that? Maybe in your 20s and maybe your 30s. Then when some people get married, and then the wife actually wants you with the kids at home.
Yeah.
You cannot like just go off like, okay, I'm going off for 2 weeks. See ya. So and then it's not very sustainable in terms of like just healthy living. I think a lot of musicians live an unhealthy lifestyle. They sleep really late. They eat really bad. And then eventually. It sounds very tragic.
It's kind of a nomadic lifestyle, right?
It's kind of a disorganized lifestyle that doesn't follow, your body clock that well, So I think it's important. The ones that actually are doing well, usually at some point, they have a health scare and then they start taking care of their health. They start you see like suddenly musicians suddenly like 29, suddenly you see, going to the gym all the time, this guy, Or they start eating better, say like #healthy living, or like #smoothies all day, whatever. So I think, as if you're a younger musician, it's good to consider those things early on before you get a heart attack, before you're diabetic, But these things are not very sexy to think about because
Yeah.
when you're 20, right, you think you're invincible. No, you cannot die one. You know, you cannot.
When time ticks
But,
by
I mean-
quite fast, right?
But yeah, I mean,
Right.
so I think it's important to consider all that other health and how do you make a living, those things.
Got it. Okay, now talking about being an independent musician also, let's keep into that topic. How important is it in establishing networks and collaboration to build a successful music career?
I think networking or like just building real friendships, real relationships is really important because your friends will hire you for gigs because they like you. And your friends will forgive you if you're late a little bit, not late a lot, just late a little bit because they're your friend, right? And also just in terms of, besides what, collaboration. Collaboration is really important because you have an audience of people that follow you or like your music, and then someone else will have a different audience. And the more you collaborate, the more likely you're going to be in front of a new audience. The biggest problem with performers in general, especially if you're independent, is that you perform to the same 20 to 50 people at the same venue in KL all the time. And then you go to another place, it's the same 20 to 30 people. It's higher when you just graduate because your family will still come for your shows. But after 5-7 shows after you graduate from college, right, they start to not come to your shows. And you actually realize that I need friends. Then your friends come to your show. Eventually your friends stop coming to your show because they got their own shows, because they're only musicians that come to the shows, right? Then you start to have to build an audience. And so building an audience through collaboration is really important. This is a collaboration.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can work with brands, you can work with companies, you can work with other musicians, you can record a track where you feature a friend and then your friend features you. You could produce a track, they could produce a track for you. You could do like a show together, you can do a YouTube video. When you hear collaboration, it doesn't mean that you always have to spend money. It could be just spending time, investing time in doing something together. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. But I think it's important to look out for those opportunities. And sometimes it's not even an official collaboration. You could just look out for something that can happen because you are at the same place at the right time. You could just hang out and jam, or you could just meet. So many times I've met people because I'm at the same event as them, and we happen to have like one mutual friend or something. And that's where you're talking about personal brand. If you have a personal brand, someone can just say hi to you because they already know you. Because they don't need to introduce yourself because they follow you on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook. And that has happened to me a lot more frequently. Usually my demographic is Grab drivers. Grab drivers know me. They say, "Bang, saya tengok abang punya video kat Facebook abang." Betul, and then another guy will say, "I used to be in a band last time, record next door to No Saleh. I saw you on TikTok. I saw you on TikTok, bro. Oh, your TikTok cool, bro. I start playing guitar again." True story. And one time I got this Grab delivery guy on a motorbike outside Bangsa Village, TMC at Bangsa Village. He's like screaming, "Rasio, major skills!" He's on a bike delivering food.
Wow.
He bought my course. One time another Grab driver, right? He said like, "Bang, I got your course, Rasio jadi hero major skills. What's the next one I should get, bro?" This is in the Grab, So that's social media. I don't go out meeting one-on-one every single Grab driver, I don't say, "Hey, I'm Asama, I play guitar, I teach guitar." No, they watch my content. So happened to be a lot of Grab drivers, I don't know why. Maybe they got time to watch content.
Probably they just leave it on the.
I think they just leave it there.
Yeah, just scroll.
It's a lot, I keep meeting a lot more. I'm going to do some research.
What you mentioned just now, right? It's actually on the platforms that we have to improve our personal branding.
Yes.
Or as a musician, right? And that's a way for musicians to connect with their audience and
Yes.
or to establish newer audience, right? Okay, so you've gotten into that fact already, right?
Yes.
And that as one of the platforms to explore as a musician. But on a broader perspective, right, I'd like for you to probably get into the one misconception about being a professional musician that you like to debunk. Yeah, we
Okay.
jumping to it.
Yeah, I think a general public really thinks that you can either be a performer, you can either be a performer solo, perform for artists, perform for band, become an artist or busker. and then or you can become a composer, and or you can become like a teacher, a music teacher. So there's all these things that your uncle and auntie that are not in the music line, right? They think that's your only job, you know. And if you don't do any of those things, they're very confused, like how you're making a living. So I think that's one of the things, because actually if you look at this place, there's a lot of work. This is the music industry right here. A lot of people here are you're not performing right now. You're talking, right?
I'm just talking.
He's employed. He got work in the music industry. He's working here, right? So there's a lot of work in the music industry that is not necessarily very much front-facing. People don't know about it. There's a lot of work behind the scenes. There's a lot of people doing the business side, marketing, product stuff, retail. And so I think in terms of misconception is that people think there's only a few jobs in the music industry. Actually, there's a lot more work out there. Except because it's behind the scenes, you might not know that these vacancies are available. You could be working for an AI company, a tech company. You could be working for like any of those companies that are doing like audio software or app development. There's a lot of work out there, but they're not necessarily public. You don't know about it unless you happen to be in the music industry and people introduce you, or you happen to know people who are hiring for those things. Yeah, probably that.
So next question, right, is how do you balance, right, creative freedom, okay, with the commercial demands of the industry? For example, right now, okay, from the top of my head, right, Malaysians and pop song, K-pop, J-pop, right, but you do have your own kind of inspiration of what you want to play. So how do you balance that?
You got rent to pay. Take any work you get, because I mean. The creative part, I think, when you start off doing music, obviously you don't think about how to, you don't just pick up guitar like, wow, A chord, how do I make money out of being a musician, full-time musician? You don't think that. You think, I just like to play a song, I want to play guitar. But in terms of like, creative freedom, I think the most important thing for me is that not every single thing has to be monetized. Not everything you do has to be something that makes money. So you could write a song and it's just a pretty song and you like it, and you don't have to have a 5-month marketing plan to follow up this one song that you wrote. You could just record a song and put it on Instagram. There's an artist, I think Yoki and Dinwen, I don't know how to pronounce the name. They just released like a demo single, and they put kind of a YouTube video up. The video is super RC, but the recording is basically a voice memo recording. It's a simple recording. And so sometimes you can do something creative, and you can just put it out there. Because sometimes from that creative thing, you can get different kinds of work, because people see that you do this kind of thing. Maybe a brand or a label or a company or an artist might think, oh, I like that kind of sound or vibe. Maybe we could collaborate and do something. So sometimes you would just want to do music for the sake of music. I've been writing hip-hop tracks, not because I want to be the next Joe Flizzo, but just because I have some things that I can't play through instrumental guitar. So I write some hip-hop tracks. Are they good? No, they're not very good. They're horrible. But I like to say some stuff in that format, so I create those things. But I don't like promote, I don't spend, like 5 months promoting it. I just like, okay, I wrote some music, I put it out, I do my next thing. So I think it's important to figure out what is creative, what makes money. And also, in terms of just making a living, I think you need to figure out, number one, what are you good at as a musician? Like, what are you genuinely, honestly, you're actually good at doing it? Number two, if you happen to be good at it, have people paid you for it before? Is it something that people will pay you for? And the third thing is that if someone has paid you for it, do you actually enjoy doing it? Because sometimes I have friends who take work, they get paid a lot, but they hate the job. But it pays the bills, but they hate the job. Back in the early 2000s, there was a very niche kind of work, is you're programming ringtones. Tell me one person who enjoyed programming ringtones. Like, bro, I wake up, I dream of programming ringtones for Nokia, bro. It's my dream job. No, they're doing it because they get paid for it. It's work. So you have to figure out, what you're good at, what people have paid you, the most amount of money as possible, that you enjoy the work. And then you have to figure out, this is like a complicated Venn diagram of like, what people pay me for, I enjoy it, and basically that, I'm good at it, people pay me for it, and I enjoy it. If you can find that, right, you probably can find your place in the music industry. A lot of people get trapped doing the thing that pays a lot that they hate. So until they're 50, 60 and they're like very disgruntled, they hate the music industry. Then after that, they do something else. Usually, it's so common, it happens again and again. It's like a repeating story.
Thanks, us. Okay, so last question for this music talk. Okay. As what legacy do you hope to leave behind as a guitarist and musician in Malaysia?
Besides bad jokes.
Bad jokes, right? Yeah.
I honestly, I just want to leave like hopefully some good music that people enjoy, good lessons. I create so much content online. I'm hoping that the platforms don't die, or at least people download these things before the platforms die. And I create a lot of. I have a website, classguitar.com, that has a lot of my courses. So I hope those courses will help people that want to learn about those topics. Some of it's like music business, some of it's marketing, some of it's just guitar, some of it's just the cage system, soloing and stuff like that. So I hope that the material will help people that might not be able to go to ICOM, might not be able to go to Berkeley, but at least they can study through those courses, or even from just my TikToks and my YouTube and my Instagram. I hope by watching it, they learn something from it and it helps them along the way. So just music and educational stuff, and hopefully it's helpful to some people. Thank you.
Thank you, Us. And that is us, Saman. Thank you so much. Alright, so we're going to have more music later by Boys That Swing. They're right over there, all white shirts one. Okay, I don't know how they agree with each other. Sunway University, all black shirt, right? And suddenly, Boys That Swing, Aswara students, most of them, all white shirts. It's like, yeah, they've agreed with each other, good. But before that, I'd like to invite Miss Shibe, alright, from Music Education to explain a bit on some of the opportunities with Yamaha.